Hello, this is Thomas Wittig from WITTIGONIA. In this short presentation, I would like to give an overview of the management simulation for a service delivery organization. There are three parts to this short overview. First, I would like to give a demo of the actual simulation interface. Then we will talk a little bit about the infrastructure, the feedback structure of the business system. And finally, I will give some tips on how and what to play. So let's get started with the demo. The management flight simulator is designed for experiential learning. So this is an opportunity to explore a service delivery organization, or specifically the dynamics of a service delivery organization in a safe environment. The simulation interface has several parts. So here you see an overview of the different tabs, and you can make your decisions with sliders. I will demo that in a moment. And there are also areas where you can take a look at the numbers. So as the simulation is progressing turn by turn, the KPIs are changing and some dynamics are unfolding. So let's take a look at the actual interface. So here is a website with the interface, and you see we have different tabs up here. So we will start with the introduction, then go to settings, make some decisions, and check out the other areas as well. Here you will find some general information. I would actually encourage you to sign up to our newsletter and follow us on social media, so you will see when we publish new capabilities, new features, and new versions of the simulation. So I clicked on the Get Started button, and the first thing that I will see here is a screen which allows me to define the scenario settings. Now, if you don't see anything here, that means that you have actually started a simulation. So if you want to restart, press the Reset button, and that gives you the first things that you can change. So in this version, this is fairly minimal. You can make a change in the deal size for the incoming sales pipeline. The mechanics here is you can either move the sliders, or you can enter the values directly. So for example, if you want to have 50% change, so here you see we will need to enter 0.5, which is giving us the correct information should be probably 50 here. So, and this is basically an easy way to get started. On the time axis, you can choose when the change is supposed to occur. So we will make that fairly soon, after 7 days. Also note that in some areas you will find these tooltips, so when you move the mouse over that, you will get some additional information. Now here we will explore a simple scenario which I usually recommend at the beginning, and which is a step change in, let's make that a little bit later, let's say at 13 days or something like that. And the reason is that we can then explore the simulation in equilibrium, which we will see on the one of the next screens. So the next thing that we would have to do is to make a decision how we want to plan our workforce. The only thing that we have to do here is really decide how many people we want to have in our service delivery organization. That's what the immediate focus is here. But let's first explore what is happening in our organization. At this point, nothing much is happening because we haven't started. I will explain this dashboard a little bit later. So here we have stocks and the corresponding flows. We also have a report section, which gives us two primary KPIs: the service delivery delay, so how much time a customer has to wait until his service is being delivered. We try to keep that on 1 day, and the staff utilization. And then you have a table which also gives you some additional information. We also have a planning section here which tells us what our desired service delivery staff would be based on different methods. So based on the backlog, when we're just looking at the service backlog, or when we would take a look at and include the actual sales rate, or even go further upstream and include the estimated sales based on the incoming service demand. So let's just play a first round. I will just leave it as is. So we have here the service decision based on backlog. I can decide here what the averaging window is that I'm interested in. Again, take a look at the screen tip when you're playing the simulation. So I hit the first run. And here you see the simulation is starting in equilibrium. And this is something that I'd like to do, because then it gives us an idea of the overall order of magnitude, what's actually happening in the organization. You see here that we have here the desired workforce. We have the rates of change. So the workforce is changing through people starting in the job, through recruiting, which is a little bit upstream from people starting in the job, people leaving, and actually attrition rates. And you see we have a backlog, a service backlog of about 100 person days over here. Now, if we go to the report, it will tell us that everything is okay. So we deliver basically within a day. People have to wait just one day, and our staff is 100% utilized. And here you see we have our first numbers showing up, which also is important and interesting to explore. Now, when we go and step forward, I will just stay with this method right here. I will come back to that in a moment. And let's say I'm stepping forward just 2 periods. So each time period is a week, so 7 days. And now you see some changes are suddenly happening. If I scroll down, I will see that my sales and marketing is changing. So you see that we are generating more project opportunities. These are flowing into our sales pipeline. And as you probably have seen here, the actual flow of our projects that we are winning is fairly low, because our win-loss ratio is fairly low. But still, we see also a small change here in the pipeline. One thing that I should mention is if you move the mouse over the lines here, you should get some tooltips, which is basically giving you the exact value. So here you see in month 22, we had about 93,000 person days worth in the sales pipeline. Now, that doesn't mean that these person days are all coming through. Again, our loss rate is fairly small. But we see now that also the delivery delay is increasing, which means that we should probably hire more people. Now, if we want to determine how many people we hire, we have here different forecasts. And here you see how the forecasts are now changing. So there are 3 different ways based on backlog, on the actual sales rate, and based on the estimated sales rate. If you want to explore these a little bit further, I would encourage you to go here again to the decision tab. And for example, if I want to change my planning method, I could say, well, I want to switch to a forecast which is based on the actual sales rate and our backlog, of course. And here you see some further information. Finally, if I would now go back to the settings, what you will see is there's nothing available here. And that is because the settings are set for an entire scenario. If you want to play a different scenario after you have played through several weeks, you just press the reset button and there you can choose another scenario. In future versions, you will more likely see here different methods what you could do. So planning to change some variability and some uptrends or downtrends, and this gives you, let's say, a richer environment where you can explore changes in a service organization. Now, back to our background story here. I would like to talk a little bit more about this business system, actually, what is behind this. And there will be more documentation in the actual interface in future. But just a brief overview, what we are talking here about is a complex business systems which has stocks which are accumulating and depleting like a bathtub. For example, the stock of the workforce or staff is increasing in the level by hiring people, and it's decreasing by people leaving the organization. So the stocks are changing through the inflows and outflows. And there are, of course, delays. So it takes some time, for example, until the opportunities which were generated by marketing are flowing through the sales funnel and we are winning projects. So there's this kind of delay, but there are also information delays. For example, the time it takes until we get accurate information from our sales and marketing colleagues and so on. And of course, there are some feedback loops. And this is the most interesting part about this dynamic simulation. So here is a basic feedback loop, which is the underlying feedback loop or very high level feedback structure of this system. We have our service backlog that we try to manage, and the service backlog is depending on the sales pipeline. So the more our colleagues are selling, the more service we have to deliver. That means we need to hire more people or increase our hiring rate, which means we increase our workforce, our staff in the delivery organization. And that means we can reduce the backlog. So this is a very simplified feedback structure. If we take a look under the hood and the details, we will find these so-called stock and flow diagrams. So here we have the three major sectors or stocks that we are actually looking at: the sales pipeline, the backlog, and the workforce. And there is also another stock here, which are the people that we have hired, but which have not yet started. And this is one of the key challenges, of course, in the service organization, that we need to adjust staff, but the staff is not readily available. We first need to find them, then it takes some time until they join the service organization. And here you see with these arrows how the things are connected. So the sales rate will basically trigger the inflow in the deal pipeline, which is one of these stocks or bathtubs which I mentioned. We are winning the projects, which generates an inflow into our service delivery backlog. And by delivering, we are reducing the backlog. Now we can only deliver according to the workforce that we have. So this depends on the workforce down here and the productivity. And that is determining how we are actually utilizing our staff, but also how our average service delay looks like. And likewise, the workforce depends on the backlog, but also, for example, on the sales rates or the estimated sales rate. Now, here's some more detailed structures, and this will be also images of the stock and flow structure. You will find that a little bit later in the documentation. Here is the sales and marketing funnel, very simplified. The incoming leads really depend on the marketing spending and the cost per lead. So we have a lead generation rate, and we multiply that with our average deal size, which gives us an inflow of potential projects and scope of potential projects in terms of person days that we see in our pipeline. Now, as I mentioned, we will not win all these projects, so we will actually lose a large amount of these projects. And the outflow of the projects that we are winning depends on the sales cycle time and the fraction of projects that we are winning. The workforce, here's a detailed image of the workforce. We are determining what is the staff gap and that is a matter of the desired staff and the staff that we actually have in the workforce. That determines our recruiting rate. We will hire some people, but it takes some time, so there's a time delay until they start. They flow into our productive workforce, and eventually they are leaving. And this depends on the average time in the organization. But we are also able to reduce the workforce, and that again depends on the staff gap. Now, in our simulation, we only have to decide what's the desired staff. Everything else is taken care of by the simulation here. That's a simplification. In reality, of course, we have to make more detailed decisions. Again, here's the service delivery backlog. Very simplified version. We have an inflow of incoming work. So number of person days are coming in, which want to be delivered. And we can deliver only as much as we have in our backlog, or based on our actual completion rate, which is determined by the number of people and the productivity that we have. Now, the interesting part is when this business system can start in an equilibrium, which means all elements are balanced in the system. That's already an interesting set of observations that we can make. But we are more interested in what is actually happening when we have a step change in demand. So here, for example, a step change in the deal size. And this is causing some and triggering some dynamics downstream, which are governed by the delays, by the accumulation in the stocks of our business system, and the actual feedback structure. So a small change like this could potentially create some imbalances or ongoing ripple effects. So these imbalances are due to the accumulation, the feedback structure, and the delays in our business system. And that's what makes it a bit more challenging to manage a dynamic system. So I would encourage you to explore that in much detail. Finally, some tips how to play and what to play. So I would recommend to explore the business system first in equilibrium, so that you can make yourself familiar with the overall stocks and flows and the orders of magnitude. So what is the inflow in the stock of the sales pipeline, or the outflow of person days coming out of the sales pipeline, for example. And secondly, I would start with a small change, for example, exploring a step change, for example, increase in demand, an increase in deal size. Again, later in future versions of the simulations, we will offer some more capabilities, but this is the first thing that you can explore. Then try to take over the steering wheel, which means you can make your own decisions on how many people you want to have. So you don't have to follow the forecast of the backlog or the sales rate. And again, a quick switch back to the simulation. The way that you can do this is basically go to the decision tab and set here, I want to enter the workforce or the desired staff based on my own estimates. And here I can actually move the slider, or I can say I want to, for example, have 190 employees. I start simulating and off we go. So that is triggering a change in the workforce. So more people are beginning to start in the job, and that gives us a change in the overall delivery staff. So take over the steering wheel when you're ready. You can also switch back to the other methods throughout the simulation, which is quite a nice feature to have. Then I would encourage you to explore the impact of following different forecasting methods. For example, just looking what happens when you just look at the backlog. So you're only focused on your area, managing the backlog, keeping the utilization in check, making sure that you provide a good customer experience. In other words, the delivery delay is kept as low as possible. Then I would encourage you to play and explore and discuss with others. So this is also a simulation you could actually play in a brown bag session. Later we will provide a little bit more flexibility with that. But this is something to discuss and explore and see if you can find some similarities or differences to your own delivery system, your own business system, and see if you can extract some learning from this. Finally, check back again and again. There are some new features coming along the way, so these will be gradually made available in this simulation interface. And if you want to get notified, I would recommend signing up to our mailing list, which you can find on the website, or follow us on the LinkedIn company page and social media. So here's the link to the company page, wittigonia.net. You will find there the mailing list, and you can find us on social media at Wittigonia, or join us on LinkedIn on the company page, for example, to discuss the insights that you have or ideas and suggestions what you would like to see in the simulation. With that, I wish you a good learning experience, and I hope this is useful for your own personal development and having a good discussion and development in your business. Good luck.